Well, it's time to say goodbye to our long-term Polo, which has been with us for many months. It's also time to say goodbye to the Volkswagen Polo. Yes, Volkswagen is finally discontinuing the Polo after 12 long years. Enthusiasts are going to weep, but we are going to celebrate a great innings of a great compact car with one last drive. Let's rewind 12 years to January 2010 when the Polo was first shown to the Indian public at the Delhi Auto Expo. This was the car that would effectively launch the Volkswagen brand in India. The Polo came to India within a year of its international launch and represented German quality at its best. Its tough build, beefy suspension and driving dynamics help it stand apart from the competition at the time. Let's also talk about how the Polo's been with us. Well, it's been a great city car. It makes light work of traffic, clutch is easy, gearbox very light. You can just dart in and out of traffic. But this 1 litre TSI engine, now that is the real jewel. In fact, this is the best small capacity turbo petrol there is, or the best small capacity petrol there is. And just this broad spread of torque it has. It can just pull from very low speeds. It loves to be revved. Oh, this engine really makes this car. But when the Polo was launched, it really wasn't launched with great engines. In fact, it first came with a set of pretty poor engines. The Polo was launched with a pretty weak set of engines. The 75 horsepower 1.2 naturally aspirated petrol and the 75 horsepower 1.2 turbo diesel were a clear mismatch with the brilliant chassis. Better engines followed. In September 2010, the Polo got a bigger 105 horsepower 1.6 litre petrol, and this certainly made it a warmer hatch. But it was the fabulous 105 horsepower 1.2 TSI engine mated to a 7-speed DSG twin clutch auto that gave the Polo the status of a hot hatch. Early 2014 saw the very first crash tests on India market cars by road safety watchdog Global NCAP, and the Polo was amongst the first models put to the test. The bad news? The entry-level Polo that came without airbags didn't meet Global NCAP's baseline requirements and was rated 0 stars on adult occupant protection. The good news? A higher spec Polo with 2 airbags that was also tested was rated a commendable 4 stars in the same test. Volkswagen's subsequent decision to standardize dual airbags across the Polo range was a clever move to establish the tough hatchback as the safe pick of the segment. In 2014, the Polo received a minor facelift, but the big upgrade was the introduction of the 90 horsepower 1.5 TDI engine. Now this came as a blessing for diesel lovers who were by then unimpressed by the noisy and underpowered 3-cylinder 1.2 TDI. The arrival of BS6 emission norms in April 2020 saw the biggest transformation to the Polo's engine lineup. Some of it good, some of it not so good. Volkswagen, still guilt-ridden after the Dieselgate scandal of 2015, knocked off all the diesels from its entire lineup, the Polo included. Volkswagen instead focused on its core TSI technology. So what the Polo got was the latest EA211 engine, a 110 horsepower 1 litre TSI. This compact 3-cylinder was a firecracker, and that's what I'm right now enjoying. Now the Polo, it's pretty fuel efficient, but like with most turbo petrols, it really depends on how you drive it. If you cane it hard, it can get a bit thirsty, but if you drive with a light throttle, it's quite efficient. So while Volkswagen took its own time to give the Polo some really good engines, what really stood out from day one was two things. One is the design, which was so clean yet so contemporary, and really it stood the test of time because 12 years on, the Polo still looks pretty fresh. And the other thing is that solid build quality. Just the ways the doors shut with that solid thunk, just the way everything is put together. And it's this solid build quality which no other hatchback offered that attracted buyers. In its first full year of production, Volkswagen sold over 38,000 units of the Polo. A great debut, no doubt. Polo's backseat, not happening. That's why I haven't actually sat in the backseat ever since we've had it in our long-term fleet. Frankly, the place to be is in the driver's seat, not at the back. It's too cramped here, and this was one of the Polo's weaknesses. So it's really on these windy bits that you can enjoy the Polo. It feels so well planted. In these high-speed corners, it just holds its line brilliantly. And I think this is really one of those things which all Polo customers love. And you know, ever since we've had this car, it's the Polo's ability to really hold some serious speeds, to really put a smile on your face. A combination of the engine and the chassis dynamics really come together to give you a thrill. Now it's when you get inside the Polo that it really starts showing its age. I mean, to be honest, it's really quite outdated. Just look at this touchscreen, monochromatic, hardly any features, and you've got these hard buttons around it. Now, buttons, yes, remember them? Well, you get a lot of them in the Polo. I mean, I love them, but quite honestly, with today's digital interfaces, everything is becoming touch sensitive. Everything's becoming digital. Even these smart analog dials, though they're easy to read, clearly they're not part of the 2020s. But the question everyone wants to know is, why hasn't Volkswagen brought the new Polo? It's been launched internationally and is already 4 years old. Well, the reason is quite simple. The new Polo, it's grown too big. It's more than 4 meters long and goes beyond the length threshold where you get trax brakes. So the car can't be priced competitively. Now the other question is, why can't Volkswagen just chop the length? Well, it's just not worth the investment. The volumes are just too small, and besides, to launch a new car requires a lot of investment, and someone has got to pay for that. Typically, it's the customer. And that would mean the next-gen Polo would be outpriced. So really, it's the end of the road for the Polo brand in that sense. But who knows, it can come back in some form sometime later, maybe even as an EV. So finally we are here, back to Chakan or Volkswagen's Pune plant. This is where the Polo was born, and this is where an important chapter of Volkswagen comes to an end.